When it comes to making a man miss you, emotional mystery is one of the most powerful tools at your disposal. Too often, people fall into the trap of being overly available or transparent with their feelings, thinking that constant communication or clarity will build connection. In reality, it can have the opposite effect, especially if the man you're trying to capture attention from isn't yet emotionally invested. The key to making him miss you is to keep a little mystery about yourself enough to keep him wondering, but not so much that he's confused or frustrated. Emotional mystery doesn't mean being cold or distant, but rather being selectively open. It's about showing him just enough to intrigue him while holding back enough to make him curious. This isn't about playing games in a manipulative way, it's about creating a dynamic that allows space for his interest to grow. When a person knows everything about you or can predict your every move, the excitement fades. But when there's a sense of unpredictability that keeps them engaged and wanting more. This doesn't have to be dramatic either. Small, subtle shifts can make a big difference in how someone perceives you. A great example of emotional mystery in practice is how you communicate. While it's tempting to be the one who always reaches out first, always responds immediately, or over-explains yourself, doing this too often can make a relationship feel one-sided. Instead, try responding with a little more pause. Let the conversation breathe and don't be afraid to hold back on sharing every little detail about your life. When you're constantly texting, updating, or initiating, it's easy for someone to take you for granted because they know you're always available. By stepping back a little, you create space for him to come to you. And when he reaches out, it will feel like he's making an effort, like he's chasing you, rather than you chasing him. Another aspect of emotional mystery is the way you express your emotions. Being genuine is important, but you don't always have to put everything on the table. When you're emotionally transparent all the time, you remove the mystery of what's going on inside you. The more you show that you're content and thriving on your own, the more he'll wonder how you truly feel about him. When a man doesn't know exactly where he stands with you emotionally, he starts to question it, and that uncertainty can create a sense of longing. Keep in mind that emotional mystery doesn't mean being aloof or distant. It's about keeping a healthy balance between being available and giving him enough room to form his own conclusions. This way he feels like there's something to uncover, and the attraction grows naturally over time. It's about making him realize that you're a person he can't completely figure out or possess easily. This technique also works because of the concept of scarcity. When something seems harder to get, it automatically becomes more desirable. You've probably heard the phrase, absence makes the heart grow fonder. That's essentially what emotional mystery is all about. When you're not constantly offering him everything about you, he will start to wonder about you when you're not around. And that's when you've got him. The key here is knowing how to strike the right balance. Emotional mystery works best when it's paired with moments of emotional connection. You want to make him feel valued and connected to you, but without giving away everything at once. When you've created that initial intrigue and he starts to miss you, that's when you can reappear with a little more depth. Just remember, it's not about playing hard to get or trying to manipulate the situation. It's about valuing yourself enough to not overshare and knowing that in your absence, his curiosity will only grow stronger. In the end, making a man miss you isn't about mind games, it's about allowing the space for both you and him to grow within the relationship. By nurturing emotional mystery, you make yourself someone he can't easily forget or take for granted. One of the most effective ways to make any man miss you, especially if he's not yet emotionally invested, is by focusing on your own life. It may sound simple, but it's often overlooked. When you build a life that's full of passions, goals, friendships, and experiences that don't revolve around him, you naturally become more magnetic. Men, like anyone else, are drawn to people who have a sense of purpose and are not overly reliant on others for their happiness or fulfillment. By cultivating your own world, you're not only making yourself more interesting, but also creating a dynamic where he sees you as someone with depth and value. When you dedicate time to yourself, whether it's advancing in your career, learning a new skill, traveling, or simply nurturing your friendships, it doesn't just make you more fulfilled, it also makes you less available. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about having your own life and being content with it. When a man sees that you have things going on and that you're not waiting around for him to fill a void, he begins to realize that you're someone who won't settle for less than the best. It's this self-sufficiency that makes you far more attractive because it signals that you're not dependent on anyone else for validation or happiness. A huge part of this is prioritizing your own needs and goals over the desire to be constantly available for him. The more you show up for yourself, the more he'll begin to see that you have a life and identity beyond just him. You'll start to appreciate your time and attention when it's given, realizing that you have your own things going on. That feeling of scarcity, the realization that your time and energy are valuable, can make him miss you more because he sees how much effort it takes to truly earn your attention. It's not about being distant or aloof, but rather about reinforcing the fact that your life doesn't revolve around him. By being engaged in your own passions and interests, you also become more interesting to him. The more you have going on in your life, the more stories, experiences, and insights you bring to the table. Instead of just sitting around waiting for him to message or spending your time wondering when you'll see him again, you're filling your own time with things that bring you joy and fulfillment. The more you do this, the more you become someone who brings value to his life, rather than someone who's just filling a void. This kind of independence creates an allure. He sees that you're living your life fully, and that can make him want to be a part of it. There's a subtle shift in dynamic that happens when you show that you're not available for anyone who doesn't appreciate you or value your time. Men, like anyone, respect people who have boundaries and who prioritize their own happiness and goals. The more you create a life that's enriching and engaging, the more he'll feel like he's missing out if he's not a part of it. This principle doesn't mean you should disregard his feelings or stop showing care, but it's about showing that you are someone with your own priorities. You won't settle for someone who doesn't match the energy you bring to the table. When you focus on yourself, he begins to realize that if he wants to be a part of your life, he has to meet you at a certain level. Another element of focusing on your own life is that it gives you the space to grow as an individual. When you're constantly preoccupied with someone else or seeking validation from them, you can lose sight of your own growth. By building your own life, you create the freedom to evolve, and that personal growth is naturally attractive. It makes you more confident, and confidence is magnetic. The more secure and fulfilled you feel in yourself, the more it will resonate with him, even if he's not fully aware of it. So the bottom line is that when you're busy with your own pursuits, passions, and goals, you're not only improving your own life, but you're also creating a space for him to see just how much you have to offer. By prioritizing yourself, you'll make him realize that your presence is something he could easily miss out on. And that sense of missing you will grow naturally. He will come to appreciate not just what you do for him, but who you are as a person, and the longer you focus on your own life, the more he'll realize that he wants to be a part of it. When it comes to making any man miss you, even if he's not particularly interested, one of the most subtle yet powerful tools you have is playful teasing. It's a form of interaction that creates a fun dynamic between you and him, where there's a sense of lightheartedness, flirtation, and a bit of challenge. Playful teasing, when done right, can spark intrigue, build attraction, and make him want to spend more time with you. It's an art balancing just the right amount of humor and curiosity without crossing into overdoing it or coming off as insincere. The reason why playful teasing is so effective is that it keeps things exciting and prevents the relationship from becoming predictable. If you're always serious, always overly available, or always the one to initiate, things can feel a bit dull or even needy. However, a bit of teasing flips the script and allows you to bring some unpredictability into the equation. When done with the right energy, teasing shows that you're not overly invested, but you're still interested enough to engage with him in a fun and light way. For instance, you could tease him about something he's passionate about or jokingly challenge him in a playful way. Maybe you know he's into a particular sport or hobby, and you make a playful bet with him or tease him about being the best at something. These types of interactions allow you to connect without it feeling like you're chasing him or making it all about him. Instead, you're keeping the focus on shared fun and mutual respect, which is far more attractive than constantly seeking approval or validation. Playful teasing also taps into the idea of mystery mentioned earlier. It leaves a little space for him to figure you out. When you tease him, you're not giving away all your feelings, and that makes him want to know more about what's beneath the surface. This is key when trying to make someone miss you. It's not about being all in from the start, but rather creating an intriguing dynamic where they're drawn in and want to spend more time with you. Teasing adds that bit of playful tension that draws people together and makes the relationship feel more exciting. The tone and delivery of your teasing are crucial, though. It should never come off as mean-spirited or demeaning. The best teasing happens when it's light and playful, And it doesn't target any deep insecurities or make the other person feel bad about themselves. Think of it as a friendly challenge or a way to show him that you're confident enough to joke around without being needy or overly serious. If you go too far or if the teasing feels uncomfortable, it can have the opposite effect and push him away. So it's important to keep it respectful and fun. What makes teasing so effective is that it subtly shifts the power dynamic. By not always being the one who's dotting or putting in the effort to win him over, you make it clear that you have options and you're not desperate for his attention. This dynamic is refreshing and compelling. It's not about being aloof or playing games in a negative sense. It's about letting the relationship unfold naturally with a playful tone that makes him eager to see where things go. And the more he sees that you're someone who can playfully tease him without putting all your emotional cards on the table, the more he'll miss your presence when you're not around. Teasing can also be used as a way to highlight positive qualities in him, which creates a sense of appreciation without being overbearing. For example, you can tease him in a way that makes him feel good about his skills or his personality, rather than knocking him down. This playful acknowledgement can make him feel valued while still keeping things lighthearted. The more he feels good in your presence, the more he'll want to be around you. Ultimately, the goal of teasing isn't to play with someone's emotions in a manipulative way, but to create a dynamic that makes him more interested in you over time. It's about showing that you're fun, confident, and engaging, and that you have a life and personality that's worth missing. When used with the right amount of charm and humor, playful teasing is an incredibly effective way to keep a man thinking about you, even if he's not yet emotionally invested. It draws him in, makes him curious, and most importantly, keeps the interaction exciting. So the next time you want to make a man miss you, consider adding a little playful teasing into the mix. It might be the spark that ignites his interest. One of the most important things you can do to make any man miss you, even if he's not initially interested, is to give him space to chase. It might sound counterintuitive, especially when you're feeling eager to make a connection, but creating that space for him to pursue you is a powerful dynamic that allows attraction to build naturally. When you're always the one to initiate contact, make the first move, or constantly give him attention, it can lead to a sense of complacency. He might feel like he doesn't need to put in any effort because you're already there, making it easy for him. However, when you create a little distance, you make him realize that your time and attention are valuable, and he'll begin to appreciate it more. By giving him space to chase, you're subtly shifting the power dynamic. It's important to recognize that men, like anyone else, are drawn to challenge and the thrill of pursuit. When something or someone is easy to get, the sense of excitement fades. However, when there's a little mystery and he's given the opportunity to miss you, he starts to feel the need to put in the effort to win your attention and affection. This natural desire to chase is deeply rooted in human nature, and it can significantly increase his interest in you. This doesn't mean playing hard to get in a manipulative way or acting like you don't care. It's more about creating an environment where he feels like he needs to make an effort if he wants to be a part of your life. The key here is to give him enough space so that he starts to realize what he's missing when you're not around. It's not about being distant or cold, but rather about ensuring that he has to work for your attention. When you don't always respond immediately or make yourself constantly available, it signals that you have a life and priorities outside of him, which makes him view you as more valuable and less predictable. One of the ways to give him space to chase is to avoid over-communicating. Constant texting or checking in might feel reassuring to you, but it can make the interaction feel one-sided, as though you're the only one putting effort into the connection. Instead, allow him to reach out to you and take the lead sometimes. When you let him initiate plans or conversations, it gives him the opportunity to pursue you, and he'll start to miss you more when you're not constantly in his line of sight. It's about letting him come to you rather than always being the one to fill the silence or make the first move. Another important part of giving him space to chase is allowing time for the relationship to develop naturally. If you're constantly pushing for more time together or trying to deepen the connection too quickly, it can create a sense of pressure or even discomfort. By stepping back and letting things evolve slowly, you give him the freedom to appreciate your presence without feeling rushed. This approach helps to build anticipation and excitement around the moments you do spend together, which makes him miss you more when you're not around. It's also important to remember that giving him space to chase doesn't mean shutting him out completely. It's about finding the balance between being present and being elusive. You want to be kind, engaging, and show that you're interested, but without overextending yourself or coming on too strong. This creates a sense of tension and attraction that keeps him guessing and wanting more. The more you give him space, the more he'll begin to recognize how much he values your time and attention. When he realizes that you're not always available and that he needs to put in effort to see you or hear from you, that's when the dynamic shifts. He'll start to miss you not just because of the physical absence, but because he'll understand that you have your own life and that his pursuit of you matters. In the end, the space you give him is not about pushing him away, but creating the conditions for him to miss you and truly value what you bring to the table. So giving him space to chase is one of the most powerful ways to make a man miss you. It's about creating an exciting, balanced dynamic that allows him to see you as someone worth pursuing and investing in. This subtle yet impactful approach will have him thinking about you more than you realize. When trying to make a man miss you, one of the most effective ways to do so is by being unpredictably kind yet reserved. It may sound simple, but the way you balance warmth and space can create an undeniable pull. Men, like anyone, appreciate kindness and attention, but when it's given sparingly and thoughtfully, it becomes far more impactful. The key is to show him that you care, but not in a way that makes you too available or emotionally dependent. This type of behavior not only makes him miss you, but it also ensures that he values your presence when you do show it. Being kind and warm is a reflection of who you are as a person, and it's important to express that. However, kindness should not be mistaken for overavailability. When you're constantly offering your time, energy, or emotions, you can easily lose your sense of individuality and become someone who's always on the receiving end of someone else's attention. Instead, when you show kindness but keep certain aspects of yourself reserved, you give him the opportunity to truly appreciate your presence. This isn't about being cold or detached, but rather about creating a balance where your kindness doesn't come off as desperate or needy. A big part of being reserved is recognizing the power of boundaries. Boundaries are often the silent signals that tell someone you value yourself and your time. When you establish healthy boundaries, whether it's about how often you make yourself available or how much emotional energy you invest, you immediately raise the bar for how you expect to be treated. Men respond well to boundaries because they respect people who know their worth. If you're always overly accessible or constantly giving without taking a step back, you may inadvertently convey that your time and energy are easy to come by. This is where being reserved comes into play. You don't give everything all at once, which naturally makes him want to know more about you. One way to incorporate this kind of kindness with reserve is by not being the first to reach out all the time. You don't need to text him constantly or always initiate conversations. While it's lovely to express your thoughts or share your feelings, if you're always the one doing the reaching out, you may risk making the relationship feel one-sided. Allowing him to take the lead sometimes creates a subtle tension that can make him appreciate you even more. It's this balance of being warm and inviting when you do interact, yet not making it a daily obligation that keeps him on his toes and wanting more of your presence. Another element of being kind yet reserved is making sure that your actions align with your self-respect. Men, like anyone, are drawn to people who carry themselves with confidence and who don't settle for less than they deserve. When you're reserved in a way that suggests you have a life outside of the relationship, you allow him to recognize that your time and attention are not something to be taken for granted. Instead of always putting his needs first, you show that you have your own goals, priorities, and values that are just as important. This will naturally make him realize that if he wants to be a part of your life, he has to bring something meaningful to the table. Kindness, when given with intention, has an almost magnetic quality. It makes him want to be around you, not because you're always available, but because your interactions are meaningful and leave him wanting more. Being reserved doesn't mean being cold or disinterested. It's about demonstrating that you're in control of your own life and that your time is precious. When you're kind yet reserved, you show that you care, but you won't tolerate being treated as an afterthought. This sense of respect for yourself will make him realize just how much he values your company and ultimately how much he misses you when you're not around. In the end, being unpredictably kind yet reserved creates a magnetic pull that makes a man miss you not because of your availability, but because of your presence and the balance you strike between warmth and self-respect. When you value yourself enough to not be constantly available, he will see you as someone truly worth pursuing and will naturally begin to miss you in a way that's deep and meaningful. One of the most important things to remember when trying to make any man miss you is that you should never settle for less than you deserve. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of a potential connection, especially when you're feeling drawn to someone. But the truth is, settling for anything less than what aligns with your worth only diminishes the chances of a meaningful relationship. When you hold firm to your standards and don't compromise on your needs, it's not only empowering for you, but it also sends a clear message to him. You are someone who values yourself, and you expect that same respect in return. This dynamic naturally makes you more desirable, as men are often drawn to those who exhibit self-respect and confidence. When you demand respect and maintain your boundaries, you create a space where a man has to earn your affection and attention. This doesn't mean playing hard to get or being rigid about your needs, but it does mean that you're not willing to accept behavior that doesn't meet your standards. If you constantly settle for less, whether it's being treated as an afterthought, not being prioritized, or not receiving the emotional support you need, it can lead to resentment and eventually distance. When you hold yourself to a higher standard, you not only protect your emotional well-being, but you also encourage him to treat you with the same level of care and respect. The act of not settling is incredibly attractive to others, particularly men who value someone who has their own life goals and expectations. By showing that you're not desperate for any relationship, but that you know what you want and won't accept anything less, you create a sense of scarcity. People, men included, tend to value what is scarce. When they see that you have the confidence to walk away from anything that doesn't serve you, it makes them realize that they have to offer something substantial to earn your attention and affection. It creates an urgency in them that makes them want to work for your attention and presence. Furthermore, when you don't settle, you teach him how to treat you. If you allow yourself to be treated poorly or accept behavior that doesn't align with your worth, you're teaching him that this is the standard you're willing to accept. However, when you demand respect, kindness, and honesty from the start, you set the tone for how you should be treated throughout the relationship. Men respect women who know their value and who hold their ground. By setting high standards, you're not just protecting your emotional health, you're also making it clear that anyone who wants to be in your life must meet certain criteria. It's also essential to recognize that settling can often be a form of self-doubt or insecurity. We might feel that if we don't accept whatever is offered, we'll miss out on something. But in reality, settling for less only leads to more dissatisfaction and frustration down the road. When you hold firm to your standards, you're essentially telling yourself that you are worthy of someone who will truly appreciate you for who you are. And this confidence is magnetic. It draws in men who see your value and are willing to invest the time and effort to make you feel special. One of the key ways that not settling makes a man miss you is by showing that you're not willing to accept half-hearted attention or minimal effort. When you make it clear that you're looking for a meaningful connection and not just a fleeting relationship, you set yourself apart from others. The space you create when you don't settle gives him the chance to realize that he has to step up and put in the work if he wants to keep you around. The more he sees that you won't settle for anything less than genuine care, the more he will want to prove that he's worthy of your time and attention. In the end, not settling for less than you deserve allows you to preserve your self-worth while also ensuring that any relationship you enter into is built on mutual respect and effort. By sticking to your standards, you create a relationship dynamic where you're not only valued but missed when you're not around.